Wow, we stayed way too long. I hope.
I didn't get it.
Wait, why did you just smite it?
Why would I don't smite first buff.
I'm so sorry. Okay.
I was trying to time my W and everything. Oh, hey there. So, yeah, it's been a weird couple of weeks. I was trying to get buffed for the new year, but, well, I think I went a bit overboard. Anyway, welcome back to Mark of Mastery, the series where we take a champion and teach you all about how to play them to the best of your ability. Yeah, a bunch of silvers are here trying to teach you how to play the game. Don't think about it too much. Last week, Chris came on to teach about Urgot, but it's finally time for us to step back into the jungle with all the new changes that came with Season 13. And who better to take into the new jungle than the most Chad jungler to ever exist? Let's talk about Zac. Have you ever gone to the beach and seen a guy who is like way too attractive to be there? Like, he's clearly a bodybuilder. He's tall and muscular and girls are flocking to him. And to make things worse, he's not even a bad person. He's nice and sweet and there's literally nothing wrong with him, and all you can do is sit there and think about how you're inferior in every way and there's no point in trying, and why did you even come to the beach? You're scared of the ocean. Sorry, what were we talking about? Oh, Zac. That's, yeah, okay, anyway. Zac is an engaged-based jungler with great tanking ability and multiple forms of CC. He's fun, has great voice lines.
I'm not as squishy as I look.
And is generally a strong pick for anyone looking to play a tank in the jungle. He's a more recent pickup for me, as an old friend of mine used to be a Zac one-trick, and watching him fly in from nowhere and set up team fights intrigued me. Enough rambling though, let's get into Zac, and I'll teach you all about this wad of gunk in the shape of an alpha male. Zac's passive is called Cell Division and comes in multiple parts, as you may have expected. The first part is purely cosmetic though, which just simply increases Zac's size as he builds bonus health from items. The second part ties in with his abilities, which all consume a portion of his health when used rather than pulling from a mana pool, but his ultimate has no cost. Whenever Zac hits an enemy with an ability, he splits off a chunk of himself which he can pick up to restore a portion of his max health. Finally, for the third part, Zac splits off into 4 blobs the first time he drops to 0 HP. These blobs slowly come together, the speed of which is increased depending on his level, and once they have gathered together, Zac is revived with HP dependent on the remaining HP of the blobs. This part of his passive has a 5-minute cooldown, so once it activates, you won't be reviving for another 5 minutes. Hey, another paragraph-length passive. Good to see you again, modern League of Legends. Zac's Q is called Stretching Strikes. When activated, Zac stretches his left arm out. If this connects with an enemy, it deals damage, slows for 40%, reveals the target, and creates a tether between them and Zac. While the tether exists, Zac's basic attack gains 25 bonus range and applies the same slow and revealing effect of the first hit. If the two attacks hit different targets, Zac roots both targets for half a second, slows them again, and then pulls them 300 units towards each other. But if they're close together, he instead slams the two of them together, applying another instance of magic damage, knocking them up and stunning them for 0.25 seconds. Whew. Zac's W notably has like 1/4 of the words his other abilities do. It's called Unstable Matter and simply makes Zac deal a burst of magic damage to all enemies in a small radius around him. The magic damage is boosted by Zac's max health, and the cooldown is reduced by 1 second whenever he picks up a chunk from his passive. Zac's E is called Elastic Slingshot, which is a charge and recast ability much like Vi's Q or Xerath's Q. When cast, Zac crouches down and prepares to jump, increasing his maximum distance depending on how long the cast is held. If you walk or just sit still and don't reactivate the ability, you are refunded half the health cost and cooldown time. If the ability is recast, Zac leaps to the chosen area, dealing magic damage as well as knocking up and stunning any enemy he lands on. The knock up and stun duration are doubled if Zac charged his jump for more than 1 second. Finally, Zac's ultimate is called Let's Bounce. While you have this ability, the passive healing from your passive chunks is increased based on the skill level. When activated, Zac transforms into a large ball of goo and begins bouncing, gaining movement speed for the duration. While bouncing, Zac will deal magic damage to enemies hit. The first instance of damage on a target is doubled and applies a knockback. Zac can still cast his W while using his ultimate, which is a great source of damage in teamfights. But I'm getting ahead of myself. As you can see, Zac has many different ways to disrupt fights and land long-range engages most tanks aren't capable of. Sure, Ornn can use his ultimate to knock up a group of enemies from a distance, but Zac can do that while also closing the distance to set up for his other abilities, all on his E. Frankly, it's ridiculous just how strong his engage potential and survivability is. He can jump in to start a fight, let his passive proc while his team keeps him safe, and then hop right back in to continue the fight.
Almost, Zac.
When it comes to bans, Zac's worst matchups are sticky champions like Trundle or Belveth, though as you've come to expect I always ban Echo because I still hate that freaking champion and never want to see him in my game, ever. Look forward to the Echo Mark of Mastery in 12 years. As usual, summoner spells are Smite and Flash. From now on I'm probably going to bring this up when there's something different like Smite Ghost or Smite Teleport, otherwise I probably just won't mention it for jungle videos. Now runes. Look, man, I don't know what happened in the week between me recording the games and me writing this script, because both his runes and item builds changed in that time. Like, I went to go look at his u.gg page and they were different from what I was using and I was very confused. So we're gonna just go over both builds in this episode. So for his old runes, the ones you'll see me using in this video, you ran the Resolve tree with Aftershock. Pretty self-explanatory, all the different CC abilities he has means you can proc Aftershock fairly often. You also run Fonts of Life, Conditioning, and Revitalize, along with secondary runes which are Precision, focusing on Triumph, and Legends Tenacity. In the current patch, you run Precision with Aftershock. Zac can stay in fights for a long time and his Q is an auto-tech reset, so I can see why Conqueror is run. It's just not something that I was running when I was recording my games for this video. Secondary runes are Resolve with Conditioning and Revitalize. For the extra runes on both builds, you run Ability Haste, Adaptive, and Armor. The item builds haven't changed as much as the runes, but considering the mythic items are the most important part of your build, and considering the mythic item is what changed in Zac's build, I feel like we should discuss it. In a lot of the videos you'll see while watching this video, I ran his old mythic, which was Jaksho the Protean. This item was used to give him a big heal and some extra max HP while also providing him with resistances, but it was also used for more of a carry angle with Zac. His new mythic is Radiant Virtue, which places him more into a supportive tank role. I think this fits him a fair bit better, seeing as his damage isn't really the shining point of his kit, it's more of the CC aspect. From here, you build your boots for the game, then move into Demonic Embrace. It's a good item on Zac since sustained fighting is what he's best at, so applying a burn helps him fight. After this, you should build Spirit Visage for extra healing and magic resist, and Sunfire Cape for extra sustained burn. Finally, round out the build with something like Thornmail or Gargoyle Stoneplate. Either one are fine, again, it's mostly a game-dependent type thing.
Can I get to the yams?
Let's go. I think that was, oh wait, no, I don't have Jaksho. Basically just build him like a tank. Zac can become damn near unkillable into the late game, and his multiple engage and CC tools make him a menace, especially once he has a few items under his belt. But of course, you gotta get there, and with the new jungle changes, the actual clear part is a bit new. So let's get into it. In the previous section, I didn't mention what Smite item to buy, and this was not a mistake, believe it or not. I want to talk about the new Smite types, as well as the new jungle pets, both for you guys and for myself, since this is my first jungler Mark of Mastery since the new changes come out. So let's talk about the new jungle real quick. Before, you had a choice between red and blue Smite, the differences being that blue Smite slowed enemies and gave you a portion of their movement speed, and red Smite applied a burn and gave you damage resistance against whoever you used the Smite on. Now, Smites have been replaced by jungle pets and they come in 3 colors, blue, red, and green. Your pets will evolve throughout the game as you clear camps, upgrading your Smite as you go. Damage from Smite starts at 450 like usual, transforms to 90 after your Smite item consumes 20 stacks, and then evolves again to 1200 once you've consumed 40, removing the item from your inventory and making your Smites gain abilities depending on what pet you chose. So the Smite system is very similar to the way it used to be, it just takes more Smites to actually transform your jungle items, and there's a new tier of damage. And now let's talk about the abilities that each different Smite gives you when you have it fully upgraded. For green Smite, you gain a shield after killing a monster while out of combat for 10 seconds, and the shield remains indefinitely until, of course, it's broken. On top of this, while the shield is active, you gain tenacity and slow resistance, as well as for 3 seconds after the shield is broken. For red Smite, you gain stacks over time, capped at 100, although you can go straight from 0 to 100 if you kill a large monster, like Brambleback, or I think the large Krug counts towards that. I think Gromp would also count towards that. I'm not 100% sure, but just whatever a large monster would be categorized as. When at 100 stacks, your next instance of damage against a champion will slow everything in a small radius and burn the primary target of the smite for a portion of their max health over 4 seconds. For blue smite, you gain movement speed when entering a bush that decays over 2 seconds after you leave the bush. Whenever you kill a large monster, this speed buff is increased. Currently, as of me writing this, it is a 40% buff normally and a 60% buff after you kill a monster. On top of all of this, each smite comes with a buff that makes you take reduced damage from all monsters while there are 2 allies nearby. So if you're trying to take Baron or Dragon, make sure you have at least 2 allies nearby to gain that extra defensive buff for, yourself, so you can take less damage while you're trying to do a Dragon. Whew. So yeah, these are the smites that we'll be dealing with for the foreseeable future. Though knowing Riot, it's only a matter of time before all these smites are removed and replaced with other smites that do completely different things. I give it about 3 months. Now then, after hearing all this, and as you would guess with a tank like Zac, you want to go green smite for the shielding and extra tenacity. Thanks to the way the new smite works, full clearing is something you want to focus on, and thankfully Zac is great at that. You start off with your W, and once you hit level 2, you level up your Q second. Clear the side of the jungle you're on and get to level 3 to upgrade your E, then move and full clear the other half as well. From level 4 onwards, you max your abilities in the order of E, W, then Q. Once you've done your first full clear, it's time to start ganking. Wow, I've never said that in a jungler video before, have I? Due to the 2 diverse forms of CC you have at this point, it's very easy to force flashes out of your opponents, especially seeing as your E range is fairly large at level 4, and gets even longer as the game goes on. Gank often and clear camps when they're up. Again, I've said this in multiple jungle videos before. Once your smite is maxed out, you can focus on taking objectives and putting as much pressure on the map as possible.
Nice! Tanner is a fucking god.
As usual, when you're ahead, gank, and when you're behind, farm, and keep your carries alive. As I said earlier with the new Radiant Virtue build, you're no longer the hyper carry Zac has been at times. Your main goal should be to make sure your other laners can flourish as much as possible.
Just kidding.
Damn, I wish I could get out of this. Nice! Yes! Woo! See you later, idiot! Team fights are simple, really. Zac will normally be your main form of engage. If you ever see 2 or 3 people relatively close together, then go create some mayhem. Whether you live or die, you're guaranteed to disrupt the enemy formation and set up high damage for your team. Once your E is maxed out, the cooldown is fairly small and the range is the exact opposite, so you can engage from a distance, create chaos, and get back out. This low cooldown high range is also great for objective stealing, and due to your other CC abilities, you can tend to survive in fights for longer than you might think.
3.
Good shit, Tanner. I'm coming.
Powers.
Easy. I will say though that Zac is not invincible. If you think you're going to be able to hop into a group of 5 people all by yourself or with just one other ally and get in there, deal a lot of damage and survive, it's not going to work that way. Yes, you have lots of CC. Yes, you have a passive that literally lets you revive, but it doesn't mean that you're going to get into every fight and then get out of every fight. It's just not that likely. I've made that mistake plenty of times, as I'm sure you can see in the footage I'm showing. And I just think it's important to let you guys know, and this is important to know with all tanks, that just because I speak highly of how good a tank's ability is to get in and start fights, it's still best to coordinate with your team and be as not stingy with your engages as possible, but just make sure that you're going in when you need to and not forcing fights, because while Zac can force things sometimes, it's not always the best choice. At the end of it all, Zac is pretty insane. It's really rare in games like this to have hyper tanks that are this mobile, while also having multiple forms of CC. If you manage to master him, controlling games is incredibly easy. I had a lot of fun when I started learning to play Zac. Like I said, I saw a friend of mine play him, and when I was starting to really get my foot in the jungle and cement it as my main role, Zac was one of the champions that I played a couple times, and I was doing really bad on him, and then one game it just clicked, and I was like, oh, I get it. He's insane, and he's really fun.
I got my boots of swiftness. You can't catch me, Nautilus.
Tanner, whenever you
He's still alive! He's still alive! He's still alive!
No, ever hit it. Thank you.
I really like Zac. Definitely a comfort pick for me in the jungle if I'm looking for a tank more than Rammus right now, at least. You know, we don't really talk about that. But yeah, no, Zac is a lot of fun, and I definitely recommend that if you want to look for a tank to play in the jungle, that he be at least one of the first ones you picked up, because he's a lot simpler than he looks, but the deep intricacies of his kit are rewarding and fun to utilize.
So, I mean, that sounds like a toxic blitz.
Get her! Yes! The pullback was elite, dude! The pullback was elite! Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. As I mentioned in the last update video, the schedule with Mark of Mastery is changing very slightly. It's still going to be every other week, but instead of Tuesdays, you can tell, at least from when you're watching this video, it's on Wednesdays now, because Tuesdays and Thursdays have been cemented as our horror slot. So Wednesdays will now be Mark of Mastery, swapping on and off with smaller games that we play as like those one-offs, or maybe like 2-offs, like if videos are kind of go long, because I haven't edited the series or the video that's going up next Wednesday yet, so I don't actually know if it's going to be too long. I'm hoping it's not going to be, or maybe we'll just make it like hour-long videos. I don't know, because it was a lot. Me and Alan played a game together, and we recorded for like an hour and a bit, I think, and there wasn't a whole lot I wanted to cut out, so that's why I'm not sure about the actual length of the video, but we'll see. But of course, I always have to tease the next Mark of Mastery at the end of these videos. And, well, let's just say we got a poster child coming to make her mark. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later. Bye!
Oh, they tease me.
Oh, GG.
No. We win. Wait, Tanner, you didn't die.
I know.